All right, Wild and Well listeners, welcome to Fam Fridays. This is a fun one for me because I have a bestie here. I have my sister, Mal. Welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for
Yeah.
inviting me.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we
All
go.
right. So this week we talked about nostalgia and how that shows up in our life. And so I was like, oh, who knows nostalgia in my life better than you? And so we're going to dig into some of the nostalgic things of our childhood, the ups, downs, and all arounds of our
Yeah.
childhood.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a expert in nostalgia, but together we are nostalgic.
Yes. First things first, we do this with everyone who's on the pod. You have a seat at the table in a world that feels really divisive. You have a seat at the table. What food are you bringing?
Well, let's go down nostalgia already. Probably
Okay.
donuts. I feel like that's the thing that I bring. It's just easy. It's part of our family. So I bet
Donuts.
it loves a good donut.
I love that. Chocolate with sprinkles.
Oh, heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Okay. Easy. I knew that. I could have done that blindfolded.
And
My life could have been on the line and I would have secured my safety and your safety in that answer. For
um
sure.
but I feel like how about anybody who needs to be at the table? Could be family, could be friends.
Yeah. You bringing Chunk?
Bringing Chunk, just got the new puppies, 12 weeks and he weighs 33 pounds.
He's huge. It's not just
He's
fluff.
cute.
It's not just fluff.
Yeah.
Okay, nostalgia. I'm bringing us into that space now that we're sitting at the table and we're here. I got some questions for you, and then you can ask any questions back or illuminate what our childhood was like. What word or phrase comes to mind? Okay, that's the game. Mom's best meal.
Meatloaf.
I used to have to take ketchup. This is how I've evolved into adulthood. Is as a child, I used to have to take ketchup, right? And the meatloaf was the
The
tiniest portion,
ketchup.
and the ketchup
Yeah,
was the base. It was like ketchup soup with a little dab of
right.
meatloaf in it. But now I've evolved, and I love a good meatloaf. Love a good
Well,
meatloaf.
the reason I think I like it too is because Zach, my husband, does not love it, and so when I get to make it, it still tastes the same. It's a
Mm,
good home-cooked baked potato and
classic.
meatloaf.
Ooh, with a baked potato, side of baked potato. That's
Yeah.
mom. All right, Waterworld,
Oh, cousins.
cousins. GHS, good old Grandview High School.
Yes, Grandview. The funny thing about that is since I'm 3 years older than you, that's not family as much as it is probably friends and swim team and choir, and that probably coming out on my own a little bit and not just part of the family.
Love that. Writing a letter for you to get out, and then you being the
Oh,
firstborn,
yeah,
so you being
talk about talk about my rule following self.
so you went homesick, just for the listeners, you went homesick because you
Yes.
had written this to get dismissed from class, and then
I didn't do my
you actually
homework.
got physically sick, so the nurse sent you home,
Yes.
and then those 2 wires crossed and busted.
I didn't even go to the nurse. I probably called mom. I don't think we texted back then. And I was
No.
like, "I don't feel good. I think I need to come home." So she walked into the office. I sat in the car while she signed me out, and I was like, "Ka-kunk, ka-kunk, ka-kunk." I, like, knew it was coming, but I had to
Did you confession it, or did she call you out?
he was like, "You got some talking to do," when she got back in the car.
Which with mom, we knew that that was, "I'm disappointed in you," which was the worst hammer that
Or
mom could
worse.
bring down on us.
Yeah, totally. I was such a good kid.
You were such a good kid. You were all 3 of us were, but you led the way. I am the healthy human that I am in a lot of part because of you, so thank you for that,
Well, I don't
because
know
if
about
you'd been
that.
wild, I think I would've been wild, but because you were healthy and again, you had your needs and stuff, but because you led a healthy life, I followed in suit for the most part.
For the most part.
Alright, next one,
But on that
childhood pet.
nostalgic path.
Anytime those stories come out. Alright, childhood pets.
Sadie. She was our dog,
So
but we had so many animals, birds, rabbits, cat,
hamster.
hamster who died on my birthday.
Alright, lots of pets in our house. I love that. Favorite dessert mom makes?
Man, that's hard. Well, let's talk about consistency with nostalgia. The go-to is the chocolate chip cookies, and I think it's because everybody knows it. Grandma's cookies, especially now, the Christmas cookies that have been passed down from the grandmas to the grandmas. There's a long line of bacon in this family. So just the baking in general. When you said mom's favorite meal, I was like, oh, I got to think about that. But the baking is where the heart is on the Gamber side, I think.
What did mom say when people would ask for recipes? Her response was, "I make it with love." She'd give the exact recipe. Other people would make it verbatim, and yet
Yes.
it would taste slightly different. She's like, "I made it with love."
They would, like, call her a liar. They'd be like, "You didn't give me the recipe." And she was like, "You're missing the love," or something. I
Mm,
ask her, she'll give you the recipe.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because one thing mom is not is a liar. So,
Correct.
and a very good baker she is. I think ginger snaps are probably all around my friends' favorites. I had some
Yeah.
friends that would put down 7 to 12, like, in one
Well, they're
hangout.
different too. I think ginger snaps anywhere else are like hard. They're just not as good as
Yeah, there's a sweetness to
mom's.
it. All right, favorite bedtime routine growing up or a piece of bedtime that you remember?
The biggest thing I remember is dad putting us to bed, and he'd, like, pray with us, and X marks the spot, which
A circle and a
if
dot?
anybody knows X marks the spot, it actually is kinda gruesome, but we changed it, so
All right,
X
X marks the
X
spot,
marks the
a
spot,
circle and a
circle and
dot,
a dot, 4
4 big
big
boulders.
boulders, and 1 tiny dot. Put some ice on your neck, let the water drip down. Some ice on your neck, let the water drip down. Cool breeze, tight squeeze. Now you get the shiveries,
So good.
which and our kids know it now too.
Our kids know it. So we draw it onto the back. For the listeners, we draw it on our kids' backs. It's a tickle at the end of the night. It's a calming sensation to their backs.
But
However,
yeah,
Mallory brought it home back in 4th grade, let's say.
yeah,
I'm
I don't
probably
know.
2nd grade. I'm young, okay? And we grew up
Yeah,
in an innocent we had a really sweet childhood. Our parents did a great job of not keeping us in a bubble. I feel like we were exposed and witnessed and observed lots of things.
we were public
However
schooled.
what?
Public schooled.
Oh, man. And on the bus. We could talk about the bus rides. That's where we were schooled, is on the back of the bus. Well, we weren't even allowed to sit on the back of the bus, or we were encouraged to stay towards the front of the bus by
That's funny.
our family. But nonetheless, mom and dad did a really good job of allowing us to observe the world and yet saying, hey, here's values that we have. Here's
Mhm,
important routines that we have, and we're going to show up for each other. So,
right.
dad showing up and putting us to bed, that's a very sweet thing that I had not named yet. So, anyways, we would do these tickles. Dad would give us them on our back to calm us before we go to bed. And all 3 of us would lay there and he would do it. But Mallory in 4th grade brought that jingle home, and the jingle was a little different. Go
It
on.
wasn't put the mice on your neck, it was stab a knife in your back, let the blood drip down. It was terrible.
Which which now, like, let's talk about 90s childhood compared to now.
Oh,
If your children came home and brought that, or my kids, I'd be like, oh my gosh, were you kicked out of school? What happened? Just a different time.
right. Well, so there's a TV show that we watch and they talk about the '80s and we say the same thing. We're like, "That was the '80s, that was the '90s. Those are the good old times," which is nostalgia. It's
We remember the good. And so dad had the foresight to say, well, I'm not going to do that to my kids. I'm going to bring something that's lighthearted and that gives us the shiveries, allows us to have a fun time, which is
right.
part of nostalgia too, is remembering fun, laughter, healthy connection to the past.
Totally. And it's funny because mom, I know, sang nursery rhymes to us, and I remembered some of them, but then some of them I know now because of our kids. And she's like, I used to sing this to you, and I had to relearn it as an adult, which is kind of cool. So it's funny the ones that I remembered and the ones that are special again, that were probably special when we were kids, but I didn't remember until she sang them to our kids.
All right, next one, Homo Wajantis.
Oh my gosh, you're singing that one.
I'm not singing it.
Is this good nostalgia or bad nostalgia?
Come
Because
on.
Becca had her own language. Becca was the typical middle child. No, okay, so she had her own language. So many different words. They meant nothing. They meant some things. People had their own names. One of her words was mushy, and she used it so much. It got banned because she
I
got in
got my
trouble.
mouth washed out. Let's talk about that principle.
That was so.
And I
And
deserved it. Let's call it what it is too. I deserved
let's
it.
call it what it is. My favorite, so I'm a photographer, my favorite thing to do when there's 3 adult children is say, "Look at the one who caused the problems," because somebody did that to us, and it's the best picture we've had of the 3 of us.
So
It's
good.
just funny. Becca caused the problems. Homo Jantas was the question. It's a song she made up, and it actually was a fun song that our family ended up singing together, and it's just the word Homo Jantas. It doesn't mean anything, but it brings back all the other words too, and how
Katie
silly we
was a part of that too. Shout out to Katie and childhood friends.
Oh, talk about nostalgia. John Chambers, I have nostalgia with him, and he's on these podcasts now,
I
which is so
know.
funny.
I know. First time I missed curfew was with John Chambers and his family.
Yeah, and I got in trouble.
You did because you were firstborn and you took the brunt for me. Thank you. And I wasn't
My
even doing
curfew was
anything
later,
bad.
and
I
I was
was
still on
literally
time.
celebrating Christmas lights and festivities. And dad was principled. That's something that I will say about dad is he is
Yeah,
principled. And if we were 1 minute late, we might have been an hour late
right, and
because
I was on time in the garage. I had my curfew was an hour after yours that night. I was on time. Dad was sitting in the dark. I roll upstairs, and he's like, "Mallory." I was like, and he's like, "What time is it?" I was like, 12:02, and he's like, "You're late." I was like, "But I pulled into the garage 2 minutes ago." He's like, "Well, your sister was late."
therefore you're late. I mean, he's principled. He taught us principles. All right, family get-togethers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, That was holidays and birthdays. And you haven't asked me this question yet, but I'm gonna go there because I kinda thought about it at the beginning and think about it now. You asked me before this to think about what mom and dad had brought to our family, and I was gonna say is well, first is Jesus, but through that would be community because we're built to live in community, and so I think family get-togethers and anything like that. It was always, "When can we get together?" That type of thing.
That's something I appreciate most is we were taught just add more water to the soup or the invitation's always open. And so now you have gatherings of 75 people, 35 people, or 10 people. I have gatherings of 35 people, 45 people, 100 people, whatever it may be. And it doesn't mean our house can hold that, but it's like,
Right.
come, just come because our parents have taught us you invite people to come.
Yeah,
And
and being intentional about community
yeah,
and having a place for someone to come is important.
yeah. I'm going to just throw one out there. What about you and two of your best childhood friends teaching me dirty songs for the first time?
Nonsense.
Picture this.
When you said songs, I'm thinking NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, which maybe that's because Trolls is bringing that all back. I'm like, "Girls, the '90s, you don't know what this is."
Let's go into that. Music. What does that bring up for you?
Music is a connector for everybody. It crosses language, it crosses everything. It moves you. I feel like I have too much to say about music that it's like, where do you even want me to go with this? Because it's been a part of my life and probably our lives forever.
Remember dad playing Boot Scoot and Boogie
Oh,
in the living
yeah.
room?
Talk about core child memories. I mean, our parents' house has a loft above the living room, and they would blast on the old CD player. Probably, I don't think it was record player, CD player. It wasn't even a tape player. They had a CD by then.
But remember the speakers?
That's
They
that's
were
what I'm
like
saying. They'd turn the speakers so they would face out over the loft, and then we would dance on the 15-foot rug, Boot Scoot and Boogie, and Miss Otis Regrets by Bette Midler. But do you know what Miss Otis Regrets is about?
oh,
It's
yes.
about how they can't go to lunch because they're getting hung up on a tree. This is what I'm telling you is, like, we
That's like ashes, ashes, we all fall down, though. That's
totally.
the
My
Black
hope in life is
Plague.
that, like, whatever these kids need to not learn just goes over their heads. We've been watching '90s movies, so we got into Star Wars, got into some of those, but now we've been watching '90s movies. We watched Home Alone. I was like, "If you ever talk to me that way," because the whole reason he gets left at home is his mom and him scream at each other, and she sends him to the attic, and he gets left at home. And I'm
Yep.
like, "I don't remember this from my childhood. I just remember a great Christmas movie." Totally.
Yeah.
The skeleton guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So good. Alright, with that, then movies. Homeward
Movie.
Bound is a classic.
Yeah.
Shadow
Becca.
comes up over the hill, and I'm sobbing, as a four-year-old, sobbing. It still pulls at my heartstrings.
Yeah.
We'll call it what it is. All 3 of us were raised to be very compassionate people, and I'm grateful for that. I'm a little more highly emotionally charged than the other 2. So,
Yeah,
nonetheless, Shadow pulled at my heartstrings.
yeah.
For
Well, Old
you,
Yeller.
Old Yeller.
I just am thinking about because I was like, "Girls, we gotta watch Old Yeller," but we just got this puppy and we put our dog down in February, and Zach was like, "Too soon, too
Too
soon."
soon. I'm glad that he had that yeah, foresight in that too soon.
And but any animal movie, my daughter's really into right now because I don't know, it's from the bloodline.
Told me to favorite horse movie from our childhood.
Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken, where the horse jumps into the water.
That's what I was gonna guess. We could play where we could guess each other's sentences. That would be fun sometime.
Right.
So good.
I was just gonna say, when you were like, "We could play the sibling game, finish your sentences." I have 2 girls, and so we talk to them a lot about how your sister will know you more than your parents, more than your husband, because they're the ones that know you from birth to death, basically, and so, like, what a special and different like, of course, your husband's gonna know you better in different ways, but, like, they have some nostalgia, but not born and raised in the same house with the same parents, so
Yeah, the foundational years. For sure. That's our strongest bond. A lot of social researchers will say that because it spans every decade of our life. And
mhm,
so how lucky are we to have siblings? And
yeah,
that's a gift. And some people have chosen families now as adults, and that's important to have that. And
mhm,
yet to know each other since childhood. I mean, you and I can call each other out on many things or
oh,
on all things because
yeah.
we know where we come from too. And so
Totally. I think having a pretty healthy base childhood modeling has helped us to have good relationship as adults too, because I think, if I'm honest, my biggest fear is that we're having girls. Girls either seem to love each other or hate each other, and I'm like, "We're gonna speak life over you and talk about forgiveness," and I don't know, having a sister relationship. I guess I'm just really thankful for that, and it just breaks my heart when I see families that don't have that, you know?
For sure. Well, I remember mom and dad from the start have said, "You have a seat at the table." That's why I use
Right.
that phrase is because I remember mom we were driving in a car and mom distinctly was like, "There's nothing you can do that will kick you out of the house or that will tell you that I don't love you because I do." I remember that distinctly. And you and Jake are in the back and you're like, "Yeah, even, like, when you get pregnant in high school, Beck." And I'm like, "The heck?" Like, I wasn't sleeping around. I wasn't like, it was like but y'all would throw shade like that because I was the middle kid and I probably deserved it for some of it.
Well, and you were, like, just slightly more ornery than
If
us, and so
any one of us was
the gag
to happen, that probably would have been
would
me,
have
let's
been
call it what
you.
it is. However, I that wasn't part of my story in high school, so
Yeah,
that also
totally.
is a reality, but I wanna reiterate that, like, mom and dad taught to us is that unconditional love.
Mhm.
You fight for love, you show up for love, it's an action, and
Yeah,
that's just true of for my kids, for you, for Jake, for our parents is even in
right,
our quirks, even in our hardships, there's nothing you can do that will say, "I don't love you," that will
to
lead to me saying those things. It's,
mm,
"Hey, I love you." We might have some toe-to-toe blasts, which we've had, or we might have some tears, which we've had, but we also show up for each other.
right,
Go
yeah.
on. I see that face. Go on.
When you said we've had some toe-to-toe blows, it's been real.
Out of the 3 of us, I wear my emotions on the sleeve the most.
Mhm.
You fall into firstborn. We fall into our,
We
like
fall into our the stereotypes have a reason or have a name for a reason.
yeah, for our birth orders for sure,
Yeah.
so alright, what fun things do you have of our childhood or thoughts on nostalgia that you wanna bring to the
Okay.
table?
Well, I was like the grandma life. So our grandma's gonna be 95 in January, and her house and our other grandma's house. Our other grandma passed when I was 17, so it's been a minute, but something about grandparents and nostalgia, you can't talk about nostalgia without grandparents. I have my grandma who passed her curios in my kitchen, and I can open it. Oh, it smells like grandma still, which is probably like dusty, dirty. It's who knows what it
A
I'm
little bit
like,
perfumey.
or like, I'm sure she cleaned it way more than I did, and it's probably like whatever product she used on it. I have no idea, but I'm like, "Grandma." And even our mom, when the girls were little, even now, they'll, like, hug her, and they'll come home and be like, "Oh, you smell like grandma," because they, like, smell like her perfume. Something about grandmas. And, like, when our grandma who's still living moved out of her house, we were being nostalgic, and we were like, "Oh, the best thing about grandma's house is consistency. We're gonna go swim in her pool, and we're gonna use the same towel that we've been using, that she's been using for 65 years or whatever it is, and we're gonna get the same lemonade in the same cups, and we're gonna play the same games." Is something about grandma's house that's nostalgic, and I'm sure not everybody has that experience, but grandmas have lived longer. I do feel like people many times have good relationships with their grandparents because they either don't live with them, or if they do, they're their rescuer. But something about grandparents is the best.
So good for the soul. I think
Yeah,
about consistency, like, you and Jake share that a lot where you're like, "Consistency," and that's, like,
yeah,
your punchline, and I think about the wood paneling or you brought up, grandma's house, Grandma Jane's house, it was
yeah.
Shirley Temple that we'd watch,
Shirley
and then
Temple, keep
go ahead.
going. You
And we play the game War.
Oh, yeah, with the cards. Yeah.
Over and over, and I loved War. My kids now are starting to play it.
Oh,
That
fun.
is such a long game. That's like committing to
Yeah,
Monopoly. I'm like, "Why don't we play Go Fish? Why don't we play Crazy Eights?" Which we did those too. That's nostalgic as well, as card
totally.
games on both
Yeah.
sides, which I'm grateful for because those are fun things, and so
Mhm.
even though there'd be tension or if in the moments there would be, "What do we do with our time?" Boredom or whatever, cards were always a part of our childhood, and I'm
Right.
very grateful for that.
Totally. We would go down to her basement when Shirley Temple was on, or the boys, our cousins, our boy cousins would have, like, WWE wrestling on her TV, and they would be pummeling each other, and because we were the youngest of the family on that side, we would, like, sit on the couch and, like, watch them beat each other to a pulp. But grandma also had, a record player, and the only song I remember liking was Rainbow Connection, the, like, Muppets song, and it's been replayed so many times. I sing it to my kids at night, like, that's a
So
good one too. And then I was like, "Wait," I played Scrabble at hers. Scrabble's a memory from Grandma Jane, and the bugles on my fingers.
Bugles. That's what I was gonna bring up for food of Grandma Jane.
Oh, I was gonna say her homemade see, this is what I'm talking about, generation of baking. Her homemade, cinnamon bread, how you can buy a raisin cinnamon bread and it's got the swirl? She should be making millions for creating that. I'm sure she didn't create it, but she had it fresh weekly. I think she made bread every morning, like sourdough bread every morning for
For
a
sure.
lot of years before we were born.
Well, And
whole
mom
different
will share this
culture.
if we talk about grandparents. We're the granddaughters of a CEO on one side and the granddaughters of a plumber on the other side.
Mhm. Yeah,
And so that side that we're talking about right now, mom talks about that she didn't like vegetables for much of her life because she grew up having to have canned vegetables
yeah, and if
every
they
day.
ran out of milk, they had to have powdered milk at the end of the week, and they had the
Ye
same meals. It was like, if the food's out, the food's out.
Yeah, exactly. And
I
so
don't I
I
don't think they ever didn't eat, it was more like, if the fresh food is out, here's the canned or the powdered or whatever.
For sure, and I remember mom saying that flour was the cheapest thing, so grandma would consistently make breads
Mhm.
because she could have butter and flour and whatever seasoning or whatnot she had for that, and mom said she remembers it being portioned out, but here's the thing about even that generation is even in that circumstance, it was invite so and so over. Grandma would
Right.
make food for them that would get off the trains because they
That
backed up to the train.
right.
And so just some of those things, and then on the other side, we had grandparents who we described having a pool in their backyard from the '60s on. But yet they also grew up with saying anyone and everyone's welcome,
Mhm.
which and if we talk about the nostalgia of our childhood, I brought home so many random people for holidays. Like, a friend would be like, "Hey, I just moved here from Tennessee," and I'm like, "Come on over for Thanksgiving." My
Right.
mom will say yes, and I'm
Right.
like people are like, "Who's that friend?" Right? But our cousin John would bring over friends. Like, we just had friends always invited. Uncle
Do
Chuck
that.
would bring over friends. Like, it didn't matter. People were
Mhm.
invited in the house, and so
Totally.
I think about that for holidays and nostalgia. But grandma I do think that there's something to be said about grandparents
Mhm.
and the importance that they have and the gift that they are for those of us that get to experience grandparents, and for
Totally.
those of us that are parents now to have our kids have those relationship with grandparents is such a gift,
Oh my gosh, just totally. Yeah.
such a gift. All right, travel. What does travel look like or mean
Oh,
to you?
yeah. First, we're very privileged to even be able to do that. We are creating this culture throughout their whole life to be globally minded, I guess, and culturally minded. And it's crazy because my oldest daughter, one day last year, she was in second grade, and the teacher was like, she was telling us about the tide and how the moon controls the tide and like whatever. And she was like, we did not learn this in school. We were talking about something connected to it, and she made the connection. It's because we went to Maine and we stood where there was a blowhole and we talked about the tide going in and out and something about being able to not have a screen in front of their face and be able to go. And so I hope to go back to nostalgia. Our parents were like, we're doing this. And we're very privileged to be able to do that. Some of my best memories even are going to the family cabin in Bailey, which was 45 to an hour drive, and spending the weekend there and like being in the camper that should have been on a truck but was just on the stakes in the ground. I that's as much travel as getting on an airplane and going somewhere.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I agree. I think the power that mom and dad gave us to travel locally or internationally with the mindset of gratitude, mom and dad are huge on gratitude.
yeah,
Be aware of the things around you and then what's your connection to them. And
right.
then the second piece to it is the awareness of others and that it's that
Mhm,
collective culture of, hey, we're going to do this together. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to learn and be curious and
mhm.
wonder and all those things that are healthy is nostalgic for me. Say that again.
Engage with the people in the different communities and things like that.
Yeah. For sure. And this is part of my what I remember about myself nostalgically is making friends with random people on the airplane and asking questions to a rock, basically. Like it didn't matter who it was, mom and dad. Go ahead.
Yeah,
What do you
mom used to say, that when Becca was little, that you got 3 more questions, and then she'd literally putting you to bed would shut the door, be like, "Good night," and you'd still be talking to yourself.
Yeah, because they taught me how to be curious from a very young age. And then there's probably some innateness within me that is just a
Totally.
curious human and the connection. And that's why I went into psychology,
It's all
stepping stones to that. But I remember again, like going up to the cabin, it was built by our grandfather. There were some sketchy people around with like beware
yeah,
the dog signs, right? And we knew don't go down that street, go down this street instead.
and
Well, that's where I think the power of travel is it allowed us to escape. And the other thing that I really appreciate from our parents is they taught us how to read and the importance of books. All five of us love reading,
mhm.
and that's a really cool thing because in the day of technology, we'll still maybe we're too busy and so we'll listen or we don't make it high enough priority to read at the end of the night or whatever, but we'll still listen to audiobooks or we'll take up a book and escape through that or enjoy different people's stories through books and reading there too.
Well, and it also gives you different perspectives. I think we live in a world where you can have the bubble around you that is feeding you with the information that you want. And instead of getting different perspectives and reading probably helps with that. I mean, you can still do it, but if you're listening to a book or reading a book that you don't necessarily agree with, it's good for your brain. It's good for you to be a well rounded person. Being able to come to the table and disagree with somebody and continue the conversation, that's where the win is. And probably reading helps with that because you're going to be able to have those different perspectives.
For sure. All right, 2 more. Last so dinner table, childhood. What would you say about sitting around the dinner table during
Yeah,
childhood?
I don't know if I ever heard mom and dad say this, but we've brought it to our family. Is like we will, if we're all home, we're gonna sit at the dinner table. We're gonna eat. I do remember my parents being like, "You can't leave the table because this is our time as a family to sit and talk about the day." Also, Becca had to sit between mom and dad because that was her seat. She could not behave next to anybody else.
Let's call it what it is. Like, I wasn't a mean kid. Uh,
You weren't bad.
I wasn't bad and I wasn't destructive. However, I was a buggy kid, or
Okay,
I was like, "Let me sit right next to you. Let me hang out. Let's chat. Let's da
like
da
a
da 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 da."
protective.
Yeah. And so mom and dad are like, "Not the time or place."
Right. I think yeah, and I think overall you were a good kid and they had high standards for us to be like, "You'll sit at the table and eat," which I think is acceptable, so, I
Yeah,
don't know.
for sure. All right. You're a photographer now. Amazing
Mhm.
photographer. Take photos of our family. Thank you. And just the work that you do in Summit County. What do you think led to you becoming a photographer?
Mm. I think our parents encouraged us to do things that we were interested in from a young age, and again, that probably comes with privilege as well because we were able to be creative, and I went to college and got an art degree, and, I think that was cool to be like, this is an option for you," and I got there in a roundabout way. I wasn't a photographer after college for a long time, but yeah, I think I was able to have that option. Something cool we're doing in our family now that probably happened with mom and dad. It's okay to fail. We are really pushing that with our kids right now. Is the only way you grow is if you try something and you fail. If you don't fail at it, you're not growing. And so that some of that would have happened with being a photographer too, because any kind of art or thing like that is you're not going to make money. That's the stigma, right? And um, not that that's what's necessarily it's all about, but, like, having the option to do it and fail is important.
Yeah, mom and dad let us, right? They let us learn from natural consequences, which I'm grateful for. I mean, mom would lecture us, let's call it what it is too, right? Like some kid at school would make whatever poor choice, and mom would be like,
So
"Listen, this is the effects if you make those poor choices." And we're like, "Mom, I've never even seen a cigarette." Right? Like let alone like be around it or whatever. Just throwing that there for example. But nonetheless, mom and dad did let us learn, and I love that of it's okay to fail. 2 pieces, mom and dad taught us follow through. I'm grateful for that. If we signed up for something, we had to follow through on.
mhm,
We could if we didn't like it afterwards, when the
we didn't
season
have to
was
sign up for
done,
anything.
but we had to do it for the entirety that we said yes. Mom and dad are big on let your yes be yes and your no be no. And
Mhm,
then the second piece is mom and dad taught us to have fun. I'm very
mm,
grateful, and that includes failing, but they were like, "We're gonna have fun while you're doing it, like, choose to find the fun in each
totally,
activity or meaning in each activity. That way
right,
it sustains you through whatever thing you're choosing." And so I love that you've come back to photography because you did love that for a long time, got a
mhm,
degree in it, and then went and taught for a while, and then have come back now to photography and are really good
mhm.
at it.
Yeah, it's been cool.
Cool. Love that.
Mhm.
All right.
Why nostalgia?
Oh, okay. So each week we go through a different theme for Wild and Well together. The
Yeah,
idea
yeah,
is over 52 weeks, we will be healthier than we were before if we engage with these different topics.
okay.
Nostalgia itself, we have childhood hurts, pains, traumas, whatnot. Those need to be met by counselors, by healing, by our place of worship, whatnot. God can heal us through that. However, those are very real things in life.
Mhm.
Nostalgia, though, is the healthy remember where I come from. That way I know where I can go, or that way I
And
know who
is
I am.
nostalgia always healthy? Curious because I feel like not to get too deep into it here, but, like, I think nostalgia is important because it helps you go back to what you said, roots build you well. I think the thing you have to be careful with it is that if we're living in the past, w
Mhm.
it can be dangerous, right, to not be like, "How am I moving forward?"
For sure. Nostalgia is what is a bittersweet adventure back into our stories to reminisce and then come back out to relate to here now, to remind me I'm not alone, to
Right.
remind me that I have connection, to remind me of times that I've come through things. What the shadow side of it can be rumination, which means I'm living in the past, right? What you talked about.
Right.
I can't come out of that, and I wish life was different now. And
Mhm. Or was
therefore,
like it
now
was
I'm
back then.
stressed because my life
Mhm.
isn't what it used to be. I'm
Right. I just was curious because I know you're going through different themes and I didn't know if you, like, could just pick nostalgia or if you have a list of 52 things or how you got there, but I was like, I think nostalgia is great, and it's amazing for us because we had a pretty blessed childhood. I'm just curious if somebody had a great childhood and they aren't necessarily having as great of a life now, being able to reflect on the nostalgia and maybe the base that they have, and then using that to be like, I'm going to control my attitude towards life because that's all I'm in control of. I'm not in control of the outcomes in order to continue to have a healthy life moving forward. I don't know if that's exactly what I said, but basically, I'm just saying, like, I think nostalgia's fine as long as you're not living in it, ruminating in it, like you were saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the side that I or what I know to be true about nostalgia is if it's our home, if we're living in it, if it's our home, that's not healthy
Mhm.
because that's escapism, that's stuckness, that's
Right.
idealism where it's like I just want to be in this what I remember, whether that's true or not, and we're not actually living it in the present moment. However, if it's that bridge, even in a hardship where like my life is not as healthy as it once was or as what I want it to be, if
Mhm.
it's that bridge to say, "Hey, remember how healthy games were for me or getting outside
Right.
pre-phone."
Yeah.
Oh, how do I then get outside now in the here now and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
let me just go outside." Or relationships. "Oh, man, I saw a really healthy relationship in my grandparents. Great. Can I look
Mhm.
for bridging that now in a healthy relationship here?" Or I
Right.
actually saw in the past really unhealthy situation between my parents, for example.
How
"Oh, I
can
don't
that
wanna
be
live that
different?
way." How do I then bridge and say to in today's here and now, I'm not gonna speak ill
Mhm.
about my child's weight, or I'm not gonna right? And we have a mom who spoke health and wellness over us,
Life.
probably prayed for it over and over again. I mean, even to the extent that she's like, our mom, and at some point I hope she's on here, she listens, which is fun, but I wanna get her on here, is she'll say, "I prayed that I had beautiful babies because I knew what it was like to be rejected from having acne." Like, that's powerful,
Mm.
right? Like, in the sense I'm like, "Oh, we had a mom who wanted the best for us, even in that stance," but nonetheless, the idea of bridging of the past, not escaping to it to live in it in that home, but to say, "Oh,
Mhm.
remember the remember when we all listened to good music? Oh, it made me dance. It made me feel connected to humans. It made me feel like I had a
Mm.
purpose and life was fun. Okay, now I
Mhm.
can go listen to some good music. Maybe it's of the past, maybe it's current
Right.
music, but it still brings out those emotions, those feelings, those healthy things.
Right. Yeah.
Does that
I
make
just
sense
think
with the power of
yeah,
nostalgia?
totally. I just think your circumstances shouldn't be where your worth comes from, you know? Uh,
Dang. Dropping firstborn wisdom. Wait, are you just saying in general or like with nostalgia? Because that was a left-hand turn, but a
in
solid
general,
one.
but it's connected to nostalgia, and your circumstance is not who you are, your circumstance is not where your worth comes from.
So regardless if I had whatever my childhood was or regardless of where I am now, that indicates that certain things are happening in my life. However,
Mhm.
my worth and who I am is not tied to that.
Correct.
Dang. I got nothing else besides still speaking wisdom 35 years later in my life. All right, that's a fun thing. We'll end with that. Thanks for being on. Love you a whole lot. Tell your little loves hello. See y'all soon. All right, cheers.